So hello everyone and welcome. I will share my screen. Can you use my screen? Okay.
Yes.
So good morning everyone. Welcome to the third Innovation Practice Group on Governance, Engagement and Collaboration. I'm Angeliki from ICLAY, and together with my colleagues Halina and Paloma and Mariana from the Pathways to Resilience, we're going to host this session. So some technical considerations for the session. Please keep your microphone muted unless you want to speak. You can always raise your hand just to keep track of the people that want to speak. You can use the chat for the comments and questions. And if you feel comfortable, you can always turn on your camera. It's nice to see each other and to have a more like live discussion. Last but very important, on the top you can rename yourself and add your organization on the region next to your name. It's easy for all of us to recognize who's talking and to have a better discussion. So today's agenda, we will have a short introduction on the IPGs, and then we will listen from the West region Romania about their experience that they want to share. A plenary discussion with the experts will follow, giving feedback and insights from their work to the region's case study. And later on, we will have 30 minutes of Q&A and field learning exchange with everyone in the room, practitioners, regions. We will sum up with the key takeaways from the session, and we will ask for you at the end to provide your feedback about the session today. So what innovation practice groups are? So IPGs are collaborative learning and share exchange mechanisms led by regions and communities to review and refine the ideas and plans and what has also been developed during the capacity building program through the Pathways to Resilience project. So the key target is to connect regions and build a community in order to share knowledge and exchange on experiences and expertise, because I mean, regions usually tend to keep this knowledge from the ground in-house, and we tend to forget that we share same needs and challenges among the regions. So this is a good opportunity for all the regional staff and the practitioners to have a voice on that and to exchange with the others. We are now running the third IPG week. We are close to the end for the IPGs of the first cohort of regions participating in the Pathways to Resilience. Fortunately, these sessions will continue also next year with the new regions that will join the project. So keep tuned, and you are more than welcome to attend them also in the next year. For our session today, we're going to use a Miro board. A link will be shared now in the chat. The Miro includes information about all the IPG sessions. There are 2 more tomorrow, so if you're interested in them, please feel free to join and register for this session. There will be a main part that has a context for today's session, but also all the previous ones. There you can also find information that has been shared through the sessions, and also material that will be added there after our session as well. So this is a living document. You can also use it after our session today, and please ensure that everyone has access and you can use it, and of course feel free to take sticky notes and write during the session as well. So now I pass the floor to my colleague Halina.
All right, everyone. So thank you firstly to Angeliki for that introduction to this IPG. We're very excited to have you all on this call. We'll now be switching to the Miro. where we will be doing a little bit of an interactive activity just to get warmed up today and see who's in the room and where we see ourselves in terms of the collaboration and governance landscape. And so if we all move to the Miro, we'll find this matrix at the top where it says collaboration and resilience and adaptation. You can follow one of us. And here you'll see we're basically going to do a visual snapshot of how we're all doing in terms of collaboration on climate adaptation. So yeah, try if some of you might not be used to your Muros. We'll explain what to do next. But what we'd like is that you would place one of these dots here. They're color coded in terms of the types of organization you are, whether you're a regional local authority and or one of the consultants supporting these authorities, or if you're another type of organization. And you are going to place a dot along these axes. So we have on the vertical axis the degree of collaboration, whether it's low to high, or governance structure and support, whether it's weak or strong. So you can now think about where you are today, and we'll give you a moment to grab one of these dots and place them on the matrix. I'll give everybody another minute to kind of think of where you are. All right, so it seems that there's no super clear trend, which is actually interesting. There must be a diversity of us on the call. Some of us are maybe in this transition phase, trying to improve collaboration and governance in your region. Others seem to be doing quite well, being at the top right. So today, what I hope is that you will be able to reflect on the case study from the West region in Romania and think about how you might in your region move to a better space in this matrix, a higher level of collaboration, stronger governance support structure. So yeah, we will be hearing more from our region, and again, think about how this might shape where you are. Thank you. I think we can now switch back to the slides. We have a little bit of context that we want to provide. So just to give you some background, we did in the Pathways to Resilience P2R project, we have done these deep dives. There was a deep dive governance kickoff, and at this stage, perhaps you can relate to some of these comic pictures here or cartoons. The challenges that were basically expressed were insufficient collaboration across levels and sectors, lack of resilience officers with proper funding and capabilities, awareness gaps in planning, strategies, and best practices, lack of ownership and accountability, resistance to participate because some local stakeholders were facing imposter syndrome. Basically, they did not feel they were having the skills. They didn't maybe trust themselves. They also maybe didn't trust government or perceived benefits. And so that led to resistance in participating. And also a limited diversity of stakeholders, which might have resulted in overlooking certain risks and vulnerabilities. So perhaps this is where you're coming from. And today we're going to look at what could potentially be done to overcome those challenges. And now I will pass it on to my colleague Angeliki, who's going to describe our regional case study today.
Thanks, Halina. So today we have with us the West Region Romania. They're going to present their approaches for a proactive adaptation and collaborative transformation while trying to build their resilience strategy and action plans. So I would like to welcome Luciana Farlea and Paul Starka from the West Regional Development Agency. Luciana and Paul have like many years of experiences in policy design and strategic planning, and they're very much involved into the project Pact 4.0 West that they're going to talk more about it in their presentation. So Luciana, please, the floor is yours.
Hello, everybody. Can you hear me? Okay, so my name is Luciana Farlea, and I'm happy to be here today and to share our experience and our journey so far in the resilience journey. And most of all, to share our best practices and our challenges in governance and collaboration. I'll try to share my screen. Okay, can you see it?
Yes.
Okay. I would like to start by presenting about a little bit our region, our vulnerabilities, and our climate risks, to give you a little context about our main challenges in governance. We are one of the 8 development regions in Romania. We are situated at the border and neighboring 2 other countries, Hungary and Serbia. We are a small region in Romania, but compared to the European Union, perhaps it's interesting to know that we are the size of Belgium, for example. We have around 2 million inhabitants, and we are a very, very urban region. We have 61% urban population and 42 cities, and that makes us the most urban region in Romania. And also we are the second most developed in Romania, economically developed, after the capital region. Our region has a very diverse economic base. However, we can clearly distinguish the industrial profile of our region as the highest turnover and the highest number of employees come from the manufacturing industry, ICT or automotive. We also have developed the West Regional Smart Specialization Strategy, and we also identified other economic sectors with current or future potential, like health, energy efficiency, cultural and creative smart specialization. Although we are the second most developed in Romania, we are confronted with very high interregional disparities. For example, we have 4 counties. These are our administrative territories. 2 of them are very high developed. For example, Timiș, where we have the town Timișoara, which is one of the biggest in Romania. And the metropolitan area of Timișoara is very developed. And we have also 2 counties like Caraș-Severin and Hunedoara who are poorer. Hunedoara also contains the region so-called Jiu Valley, which is a former mining center in Romania, and now it deals with severe economic and social challenges related to the transition to the green economy, and it's included in the just transition mechanism. Moreover, we have some other disparities between urban, high urban, like Timișoara, as I said, and small urban. Our towns are rapidly losing people and economic and administrative functions. And we have also the urban and rural divide. On top of it, we have a strong demographic decline, perhaps the highest in Romania. We lost 5.2% of population in 20 years' time. And the European Union also classified us as being in a talent development trap. What that means is that we have a high net out migration of young talented people, and there is still stagnating or low people involved in the tertiary education. So the labor force issue is a very problematic one for the future of our region. So the region has to find innovative ways to tackle the climate change, which is putting an additional pressure on the regional structural issues. I just wanted to tell you that our region is very diverse. We have also all types of landforms, the Carpathian Mountains, plains, hills, the rivers, Danube, for example, and 30% of our region is protected natural areas. During our baseline report, our analysis, we identified that the region has a high overall climate risk, and we have different climate risks. For example, heat stress, which is affecting the population. By 2050, the number of heat days per year will increase by 2 times. For example, we have now 2 or 4 days of hot years per year, and in 2050 we will have 9 or 10. The greatest natural disasters that happened in our region are related to river flood, and we can see here a flood map that my colleague Paul has developed, because we also are specialized in IPGs. For example, the greatest natural disaster happened in 2005 on the Timiș River, when 100 localities were affected and a lot of homes were destroyed. We have also wildfires on environment because we have large areas of forest. And for example, in 2022, we were the second most affected region. The Spain was the first and we were the second. And of course, due to the heat stress, we are affected also by droughts on primary sector, on agriculture. I want to introduce you a little bit our organization. Our regional development organization has more than 25 experience in strategic planning in the development of steering sustainable development in our region. We are a non-governmental body, public utility organization, and let's say that our main function, besides being a project promoter and a policy developer, is that we manage European funds. And since 1999, we managed 4 billion euros and implemented more than 1,500 projects. In this programming period, 2021-2027, we are managing authority for the regional program. And the regional program has a lot of investments directed or priorities directed to the climate that can be related to the climate change. For example, green spaces, urban regeneration, energy efficiency, and so on. Okay, why this project? Taking in account that we have a lot of the existing financial instruments that we have now in the West region, we consider that it's very important to have a coherent strategy in place for investing the funds as to build a climate resilient, carbon-free region by 2050. So this was a very good opportunity for us to involve in the first cohort of regions. And our project has 3 main objectives. And the first one, of course, is building a participatory framework, for multi-level governance and an equitable, just collaborative space. The second objective is to develop an open and integrated knowledge hub covering climate data, science legislation, and to support informed decision-making in resilience policies. And of course, based on the governance framework that we constructed and on data, we must have this climate strategy in place and innovative actions and measures to develop. Okay, about going to our main issue today, the governance and the collaboration and engagement. I think this is our first challenge in the project. When we made the analysis, then we discovered we had a lot of climate risk, we had a lot of key systems affected, our region has many vulnerabilities. We also discovered that there are a lot of actors involved in the process. So we had the issue of where to act, who to involve, and how to develop our resilience journey. And concerning the governance challenge, the main one is that our strategy tackles is to design and implement the strategy in the absence of a distinct regional administrative structure. So our region does not have administrative status. There was no pre-existing climate resilience or adaptation regional strategy. At the moment, the climate change policies are elaborated at the local or county level. The national level has a national strategy for climate adaptation put in place this year. And the local and the county level are elaborating most of all socio-economic strategies, and the climate and the environment is caught in this strategy. There is no distinct strategy. So our strategy had to be designed in this context and in compliance with an evolving multi-level governance. As you can see, our objective is that the strategy will work with an open and inclusive perspective on climate resilience policy making. And the objective is to have a democratic deliberation, multi-actor interaction, and participatory approaches that must be built in the region's own path to resilience. So we had all these issues, and what can we do with them? And our solution was to develop a strategy for engagement. We arrived at this conclusion that we have to have a strategy in order to have a climate resilience strategy. And there was 4 steps that we put in place. For example, the first one was, of course, to map the stakeholders, and that was a hard job because there are a lot of stakeholders in the regions. But the tools used from the Pathway to Resilience support were very useful. We did this mapping and the metrics of influence and interest. That was a very, very great help to see who to engage in this process. After we did the stakeholder map, we made an engagement action plan with a certain timeline and format for future events. We designed a lot of types of events, all of them with the scope of putting in place the climate resilience network. So this will be our main governance structure for the strategy. And the climate resilience network was first established in a climate conference where a lot of participants, more than 30, participated and agreed to take part with us in this journey. Then we had a lot of workshops, thematic workshops, for example, just with local urban authorities or on agro-food part and so on. We also did we did a training to enhance the capabilities and to make all the stakeholders understand what is climate resilience, what is climate adaptation, what will be their role. And we also participated in knowledge sharing events. We went over to our stakeholders when they presented something, when they needed us for in their events. And what will we do next? We must enhance this governance mechanism, and we are preparing a visioning exercise to establish the vision of our region and to prioritize the pathways for adaptation together with the stakeholders. We want to have an expert panel where to invite experts in climate change to discuss it with us in the regions, the issues that we have. And we try to have a bold attempt to have an innovation practice group in our region, a local innovation practice group. That means inviting the stakeholders to present their own best practice that are in our region. So the main output from our project is this climate resilience network, which I already told that how it was built, and has the roles of system mapping. This was already done. Data input, visioning the future of the region, prioritizing pathways to adaptation, the input and access to knowledge hub, which is already on creation, a knowledge exchange, dissemination of the strategy, and of course, perhaps the most important part, the project proposal and implementation. I wanted to show you in the end some of the engagement practices and tools we used. And first of all was this climate conference where we did the exercise of system mapping, and then the thematic workshops, capacity building, and we tried to involve some unrepresented groups and to ensure just and inclusive participation. And for the moment, we went to primary school and played some games, and this was very interesting. And this is a good practice we can share. And we try to, in the future, we will try to go to other unrepresented groups and involve them in our strategy. I guess this is all. I just wanted to end this presentation by addressing some questions to the participants and to the experts. If we can discuss together what are the most effective practices for securing not just the involvement, the active involvement of a range of stakeholders. Which do you think are the most effective methods for prioritizing adaptation pathways? Of course, while ensuring inclusive participation, and how to leave no one behind, particularly vulnerable or underrepresented groups. And this is a very important issue for our region. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Luciana. It was a very informative and inspiring, I would say, presentation. It's nice also to see that you got inspiration from the IPGs and you are going to put in practice something similar in your region. Good to
Angelique,
good to share these practices. Yes.
Remember the mic close, just because we
cannot listen to you anything that you're saying.
Is it better?
Yes,
now? Is it
just
better?
keep it close.
Okay.
Keep it close, because otherwise it's not possible to listen to you.
Okay. Good. Just tell me if I'm not heard well. Okay, nice. So if there is from the room, we can maybe pick up one or two and focus more later in the discussion part. But if it's something like a clarification question that you want to do to Luciana, please feel free to raise your hand and speak.
Seems that we have no questions, also not in the mirror so far, but just a reminder for everyone that you have a link in the chat in case there are any questions. You can also just write them in the mirror board directly.
Okay. So I will now present you our experts for today's session. I would like to welcome Carolina Giraldo Nora. Carolina has over 12 years of experience in systematic design, STEM design, and innovative governance. She leads the system and policy innovation for circular economy in Climate Peak. Welcome, Carolina. Then we have with us Eulalia Paulena Serra from Barcelona Computing Center, and also Sam Picard from the same organization. Thank you much for being here. And Eulalia is a postdoc researcher in the knowledge integration team. She specialized in participatory methodologies and knowledge production. And Sam's work focuses more on the translation of climate science into useful and usable knowledge to the communities. Both Eulalia and Sam participate in the Agora project that focuses on the citizen engagement and co-production from climate solutions. So welcome everyone, and thanks for being here. I think that your expertise is very much valuable for the region and everyone in the room working on governance and engagement and collaboration. I would suggest we can move to the mirror now, and we have there the questions that the region raised, so we can be there as a more collaborative space as well, and we can start our discussion from there. Okay, thank you very much. I would like to open the floor to our experts to share their insights for the presentation and reflect on that. We have here the questions that the region raised. The questions are around stakeholder engagement, prioritization of pathways, ensuring the inclusivity, and of course the raise of justice and how we can leave no one behind in this process. So I would say that we can start with the stakeholder engagement, but it's a very core pillar of also West Region strategy. So from your experience, what practices or tools have been proven most effective for the stakeholder involvement, and how we can sustain actually this involvement beyond just the consultation part? I don't know who wants to start, maybe.
Okay, I can jump in. So first of all, thank you for the presentation, and it's a pleasure to be here and also share and discuss this kind of insights that I think that are commonplaces in many regions. One of the things that I think that it's interesting here is that, yeah, we can mention in, let's say, tools and methods, but also what is one of the most important things is about, okay, our awareness of the system, because not all of the tools and not all of the methods can be, let's say, a recipe that we can copy paste. What works, let's say, in northern regions, in regions that are in the western part of Europe, is not necessarily gonna work in Eastern Europe or even in the Mediterranean context. So that's like one of the first things that I think that it's very good to highlight. I think that, of course, you can learn from good practices, but I think that what even from our experience in Climate Kick is how we are having this knowledge of the system mapping first in order to understand what is the tailor-made approach for that specific context. I think that one of the things that we have worked over the years, and we had a big project in Slovenia with the Slovenian government on how to develop portfolios of innovation towards to transition for circular economy. And we deal with different ministries there, and we experiment different participation tools in that context. And one of the things, and that's why I could say that even inside a country, by sector, it was very different, the methods and the approaches. So for instance, when we talk about when we did this kind of participation processes with the built environment, it was very different from the stakeholders of the agriculture, from the stakeholders of mobility sectors. So what I will say is that we used a spectrum of things, from co-creation sessions, from focus groups, with, let's say, with different kinds of stakeholders, but also with experts. And also one of the things that was very interesting here is the gap between sometimes the knowledge of the region and like the government. So how to bridge, let's say, the universities, the knowledge of the different industry sectors into what the measures and plans that the government wants to apply. So this was one of the things that we try through these participatory processes. And in regards climate resilience, one of the anecdotes that we could say there is that in the built environment was in this session mentioned many times about like adaptation and why it was important to include it in the policies of infrastructure. And when that process was happening, the big floods of Slovenia happened 2 years ago. And it was very circumstantial that to prove you why it's important that like the different sectors and the government really work in a coordinated way. So yeah, just to give an example, but I would like to give a bit the floor as well to Eulalia and the others.
Okay. Thanks very much, Carolina. I mean, and to Luciana for the presentation. I think Carolina's covered most of the points that I had written down here, but I think another one I would perhaps add is not just to tailor to the region, but also to the specific stakeholders. So if you're looking for this active involvement of different stakeholders, what does that mean for those stakeholders? And for the people who are already very involved in local or municipal processes, that might mean doing what they do already and continuing to provide input. But if it's a group or a stakeholder group, or particularly a citizen group that's underrepresented, then that might actually look very different. A couple of ways that might achieve that is to try and generate ownership in the process a little bit. So one thing here could be like building in flexibility and using the stakeholder group to direct some of the activities as well. Not just the outputs, but also like the way they're discussed. That might be one option. And another thing, and I thought this was really nice actually in the pictures that you showed, is sometimes you have to meet people where they are and where they're comfortable. So I think going into schools is great, but and sort of like I would absolutely like encourage that. I think that's fantastic. They're also generally quite enjoyable, those things as well. But there's probably other underrepresented groups that you would like to involve and that might not feel comfortable, perhaps not the word, but you might not get that active involvement if you hold meetings in the local offices. You might have to go to the community centre in that neighbourhood, or you might have to speak to a local community leader or a representative and go through that way. So that might be another couple of things. I don't know if Eulalia, if you had anything else to add.
Yes, so far agreeing to everything that has been said. Also, I would like to think about the stakeholders that thinking about the co-benefits of the process of them participating. So like what type of benefits they would obtain from participating in the process and providing their input. And I think the good thing about joining different stakeholders together is that they can like give and receive among themselves. So maybe someone needs the data, and by joining them in their space, they find the research institute that can provide the data. So also thinking in terms of like what other co-benefits they receive from participating in the process more than providing input. And apart from that, we also think that creating strategic alliances with stakeholders that might have already networks in the local area, we have seen that it's very positive for the process because it can reach people that you might have not mapped from a more centralized perspective. Yeah.
And
that's super interesting because I'm sorry, Carolina.
No, I just wanted to compliment that what Laura was saying, that it's very important to highlight what's in it for them, because then you can easily, in this kind of trying to activate this, you can have burnout of the stakeholders. Like if they don't see the sense in the first or the second one, they're going to tell you why I should be going to your meetings where like what is the sense for me, what I'm gaining from for going to your meeting. And also you can, so it's a very delicate process at the end, because you can lose credibility very quickly. So if you don't from the beginning show what is in it from them, so it's like, I think that is a lot of pressure on that side.
Indeed, it isn't. It's usually something that we see very often when we work during these processes. And I would like to comment on the fact of the strategic alliances and of taking advantage of what is already on the ground, because we tend to always try to build something new and we forget what's already there and how we can integrate this knowledge or these existing networks in our process. So that also builds the cross-sectoral approach, that also builds the ownership of we're starting something that will last and we can all have the co-benefits and go a step forward. I would like to ask Luciana if she wanted to reflect on that, if you have already implemented some of these approaches, if you faced any challenges during this, and if you feel that this would be helpful for the next step of your process.
Yes, thank you for all the input from the experts. Yes, I just wanted to say that we discovered, and we already knew, but it's a discovery on the way, that this this governance process is an open one. So we discover on the way what to do next. And this is one thing we discovered, that we had to do some strategic alliances. For example, from the first climate conference, we discovered an NGO that has a lot of connections in agro-food, for example, and then we go to their events, and then we make new acquaintances. For example, we added new stakeholders to our strategy. So this giving and receiving is very interesting, and we discover on the way a lot of the things the experts said. So we are in this moment of building new strategic alliances on different sectors, because as I said, I think our greatest challenge is that we do not have the power to implement the strategy, because we do not have administrative powers. So we are building a policy, and we need to have near us the stakeholders who can actually implement the strategy. So it's very important to build these strategic alliances for our region.
One of the things that it resonates a lot with some of the case studies that we have faced in Climate Kick over the years, is like how this implementation process and how hard it is, no? And one of the things we have seen is that sometimes the policy is there, like we're going to write it, it's beautiful, has like everything that we always wanted, but then it's like, where is the agency, the accountability? And one of the things that we, even through the Pathways to Resilient trainings, we were talking about the portfolio approaches. So how, like, okay, to implement this, we need to have regard of a spectrum of actions that is not necessarily, okay, relies on, is that if we don't have the money, we cannot do it? Is that if we need like we rely just only on the policy, or we are just relying on the awareness campaigns? So how we can, let's say, understand that we need to activate different kind of levels, and we have also to create the conditions for that strategy, for that adaptation plan to happen. If we don't, and what I mean when we are creating conditions, of course, one of the bases that we are talking today, of course, is about stakeholder engagement, but also like understanding, like what are the, let's say, the conditions of my territory for if we are ready for these kind of things to land. And the thing about the previous step, even before, what I will focus my energies is that, okay, like first, if I have harvest these strategic alliances, or for instance, even something so even cultivating, let's say, the network of schools, or we already know that even they are, I will put something that it seems far away, but is not. For instance, farmers associations that are already articulated, activated, they have their own participation mechanisms. How can we take advantage of participation, networking mechanisms that allowed me to actually create conditions for this adaptation plan to be implemented? Because of course, if we look at it from like, yeah, creating everything from the ground zero, it's very difficult. And also I will think that it's I mean, it's not enough the time, like let's say the government, the political, let's say, cycles as well.
I just wanted to add really useful insights. So maybe the one important challenge for us is building trust between stakeholders to generate strategic alliances and to generate, let's say, project ideas. And from the meetings we had, we saw a lot of enthusiasm from the stakeholders, but just to we need to keep this enthusiasm and to build trust, not only awareness, but build trust between them so that they may collaborate more on building this climate resilience network and generate projects just to keep on going.
If I may add to that, I think it's a real challenge to generate like to trust building. And from our work, when we were mapping citizen engagement initiatives, we were seeing from citizen assemblies that they were very good at this process, that they achieved that the people would put themselves on the shoes of one another. And this helped like create a lot of rapport between people that were very different from their backgrounds, from their positions against climate change. So some of the practices that they would do that, it would be like to like generate this feeling that I can understand your position and I can put myself in the other's position. So but we agree that it's a very important thing and challenging thing to achieve.
So I see, I'll just jump in here. Natasha, we have one more hand up. If we could take that, and just to be able to also move to the peer exchange and give that enough time. I just want to see if there's anything related to one of these questions that you have a comment on.
Hello, do I have a word?
Yes, we'll give it to you, and then we'll stop taking hands for now.
Okay, thank you very much. Yes, I wanted to basically reflect on most of the things that have been said and maybe demonstrate an example from Slovenia, how we went about governance and participation. So we are a rather small country, so the whole country has 2 million people. And in the project, the region participates with much lesser amount of people in the region. However, for us, doing the strategy already, going to action plan, we realized that doing the in-depth stakeholder analysis, we analyzed stakeholders from 3 perspectives. One was how interested they are in our topic. The second one was, is their attitude positive or negative to what we're doing? And third, which was very important, was what is their power over the topic that we're handling? because the situation was similar to what Luciano was saying, that the whole consortia of our project consists of regional development agencies that do not have a decision-making power in the region, because we have no regional governance. So it is really the municipalities that have a say in making decisions and implementing them on one hand, and on the other hand, the governmental institutions. So what we did in the second round was to have in-person, in-depth interviews with each municipality in the region, to really meet the decision makers, people from various departments, to get an insight into what they're actually already doing in terms of climate resilience and what are their plans for the future. And this will be basically the base of the measures that we will bring to now a rather big workshop we're planning by the end of the year, where we will invite all other key stakeholders to the table. But we have a base of the ones that will really implement it, including financial information to work with. And on the other hand, I personally keep a very close relationship with the ministry responsible for adaptation that follows our work closely. And also on the national level, I try to form these strategic partnerships with universities or other ministries that have knowledge on adaptation. So this is kind of the approach that we took. And moreover, for us was crucial that climate law was adopted in this year that gives us a legal background and justification of what we're doing. What we're still missing is to finalize the cost-benefit analysis, because this will give us leverage in convincing the decision makers that don't yet see importance in what we're doing. So much from me. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much for sharing that. That's very useful for the other regions to also hear about. We will actually be moving on to the project exchange, unless I just want to check if there's any last comment, and otherwise we'll be we want to also give the chance to hear from our regions, but we can also incorporate some of these questions that are here in that discussion. So these questions on also prioritizing adaptation pathways, leaving no one behind, please try to keep those in mind, and we'll be bringing those into this next part, which is the peer exchange. So we'll be moving to the right. There's a little curtain that we have to unhide on the Miro board. We'll just give a moment for our tech team to help us with that. And here we have 4 different questions for our regions. We could go from top to bottom and see what we achieve, but I also want to do it democratically. So it would be quite interesting, I think, to hear which regions were able to recognize similar starting conditions to what we heard from in the West region, namely having a diverse territory, the climate pressures that were mentioned, and the situation with the governance structures. Did anybody recognize similar starting conditions? Or is your situation quite different? I also invite, in case we don't hear from the regions, the experts can also maybe chime in from examples that they've seen. Yeah. Is no one facing governance structures or governance gaps, or is everything perfect? Sorry, I think Eulalia or someone, you're trying to speak.
Yes, sorry, I'm just to jump in very quickly, and this is something that is in a little bit of the wording throughout, and it's about in this case it's ensuring inclusivity, and I think before it was leaving no one behind. And I think that the point here is that these aspects that are tangential to the overall goals should also be monitored. And that's well within that's definitely something as the organizers can do and set that as a sort of a sub goal quite early on, and then check it through the process. So if ensuring inclusivity is one of the sub aims, then devise a way to ask the group whether they feel that that is occurring. You might have an advisory group that sits outside of the main group that comments on it, or you might interview individual people who you think maybe would be disenfranchised at the beginning of the process. But I think that's a real, it's something that we've really seen in reviewing. I think we've reviewed, I don't know, probably close to 100 different initiatives and sort of practices now, and there's just a real lack of evaluation during the project, during the ongoing process. It often happens at the end, but if you want to ensure it throughout, then it's probably something that has to happen during as well.
And just to give an example of that, it can be as easy. There was an interviewee that we talked to, and he had done over 100 citizen engagement initiatives. And he said that at the end of the day, they would go for a sandwich together, just to a cafe. Like it went as easy as like this informal practice, and then having maybe more structured evaluation. But it can be as easy as receiving feedback on the fly.
Yes, shared meals always bring people together. So thank you for sharing that small but meaningful example. I mean, we are already, I think the topic of inclusivity is quite interesting for many of us here in the room, and innovative methods there. If does anybody else, have any other examples that they'd like to highlight or are thinking about in your region when you're doing adaptation work? And otherwise, if you are feeling shy today, that's fine. You can also add a sticky note and participate in the Miro, and we'll, of course, be able to look at your feedback.
So no, I just wanted to jump in as well. One of the things that comes to mind as well is that being aware of the level of readiness of the different groups of the stakeholders. The fact that you create like not everyone is in the same page or awareness on climate adaptation and why it's important. So again, I will come again to the concept of creating conditions. What are the conditions that I need to create in order to implement or to really go forward with any adaptation plan? So understanding that some of the sticky notes was saying that the level of the starting place of each stakeholder is very different. And there's not just like, this round table where we know like that the awareness of or the knowledge, like, or the interest is the same. Holly, there's hands up.
Yeah, thanks. I thought I'd just share some reflections from our region, from London. So we're quite different in the fact that our different climate risks we're at different starting points in terms of governance. So for surface water flooding, we're quite kind of advanced. We have a partnership set up, it's called Flood Ready London, with lots of different players that have statutory duties. And there's a strategy published for that. So that's quite kind of well set up and working on actions going forward. And then for heat, which is what we're focusing on for Pathways to Resilience, we're kind of starting from scratch. There's no governance, there's no statutory duties, there's interested parties, and there's like all the local authorities and the regional government that I'm part of, but there's nothing set up yet. So we're at very different points for different risks, which is interesting in itself. And even if we look at other risks like drought, there's again different structures in place and different parties involved and different statutory duties, and even sea level rise, again, that's different as well. So I don't know if that's the same for other regions, but it looks very different depending on the risk. So I thought I'd just share that.
That's quite interesting that you have this difference with hazards. I'm just, before jumping onto Mariana, I see your hand is up, but to check if anybody else is having some similar, something similar to what we heard from London. That's quite interesting that, yeah, you would be further along in one hazard and then in another, there would still be this work to do. So yeah, thank you for sharing that. In case no one has a similar situation, we can also pass it on to Mariana.
Thank you, Halina. Yeah, I was wondering, given that we have a lot of P2R regions here connecting and other colleagues, because in this kind of peer-to-peer exchanges, we always ask about like, what are your best practices, which are the things that are working in your region. But I will try to do the other way around, like what didn't work. I would like to hear in your regions also, how are you struggling in terms of trying to engage the stakeholders? What were your fails, for instance, in trying to do this inclusivity thing? And what are the lessons learned from that? Because I know that many of you are working on your adaptation strategies and resilience pathways, and maybe you are already experiencing some of these fails, and maybe it would be nice to hear also what's not working, so we can all say, okay, I will take that into account and see if I avoid that steps and I follow maybe these other ones that seems to be working better. Because of course everybody fails as well. It's not just about sharing all our goals and what we achieve, but also what we maybe say, this is not the way, we need to rethink about this. So just curious about who's dealing with kind of issues when it comes to engaging the stakeholders. If anyone is brave to share their experience, would be nice to hear. Well, seems nobody is having that issues, or maybe you want to share on the chat or on the Miro. But yeah, don't be shy. I mean, I think it's not an easy process. So I guess everybody is struggling a bit. So it's fine if you want to share some maybe actions that didn't work as you were expecting. But yeah. I don't know if anybody want to share, and if not, maybe we can move to the next one.
Yeah, I'll open the floor in case just to hear if any regions want to speak up on that. And again, yes, we said we can hear. Okay. Eulalia and Sam, do you mind if I take Lucian? Go ahead, Lucian. I hope I pronounced your name correctly.
Well, hi there. Yeah, that was the right pronunciation, by the way. So thanks. I wanted to mention just a few random points, which at least reflect my own dilemmas. These might be obvious for all of you already. So, for instance, one of my problems during the past year was the fact that we were always working with imperfect knowledge. So the fact that in academia we always say narrow down the topic, but in working with such big frameworks, it's impossible to narrow down the topic. Then what do you do with limited time, limited resources? So this was for me a constant source of frustration, because on one hand you need more time to acquire more and better knowledge. On the other hand, you work within a project-based initiative. So this tension between the need for more and better knowledge and the need to deliver a strategy at the end of a certain project, that was a source of frustration for me personally, and I think it's really general. Maybe you all share it, I don't know that. Then another point is that the mapping of stakeholders needs, in my view, constant improvement. I mean, I think that in some contexts, even the word stakeholder is not really appropriate. For instance, it kind of hides differences in power, in resources between stakeholders themselves. And then some communities are simply not organized, or some individuals are so marginalized that it's impossible for them to have a voice. And then for us, it's really difficult to hear them without them having a voice. So this is, again, something very, very tricky in designing a participatory framework, which, by the way, going back to limited time resources, so participatory development, participatory strategies in general are notorious for being time consuming. And again, we go back to the same tension between limited time and the amplitude of the task that the design of just resilience framework needs to have. And then just one last reflection on the response from our stakeholders, at least in the west region of Romania. So what I have noticed is that the response from public institutions is quite good, if not excellent. But especially those having a military structure, like the Emergency Situations Inspectorate, for instance, they are really great in responding quickly and being very collaborative. But then, on the other hand, there are some stakeholders which are less involved, and some of them are, I think, that they're simply too powerful to even care about such exercises at some point. I'm having in mind, for instance, the big financial sector, right? So we had some response from them, but that was very limited. And then, strangely, NGOs were less responsive than we expected them to be. We wanted to have much more NGOs involved, and I've tried to understand why was the case for such a limited involvement. And doing some informal conversations with some of the activists in our city, I have discovered that some of them were simply too skeptical to get involved. So, okay, it's these lists of nice words, we know them. Are you serious? I said, it's very serious. Please attend. But I'm totally open vis-a-vis these situations. And so some activists, especially activists, were really skeptical. Not regarding us as actors, but regarding the whole talk about just resilience, and the fact that some activists detect the tension between economic growth and climate justice better than we might even imagine. So they detect the tension, then they say, oh, which side are you on? So this is, again, a difficulty to be convincing, to be always open, and to play our part as best as we can. Of course, I have many other random points, but I need to stop it here. So again, if we are to continue this conversation, I'm absolutely willing to at least talk as much as we can on these dilemmas. Okay, thanks. I'll stop now.
Thank you so much, Lucian, for sharing the experiences in your region. And yes, this topic of also activists and building trust with them and involving them in collaboration is really a barrier that is worth discussing more. You mentioned you have other points, but feel free to also add those to the Miro so that the others can also perhaps reflect on those and relate to those.
I apologize. I wasn't able to start posting anything on Miro. It's obviously my fault, but I
worries.
promise I'll
We also have a chat. So if Miro is an accessibility issue, then we have the chat, which you can also share those thoughts. I see back to Sam and Eulalia, if you have a comment on this, and then I wanted to make sure that we have time for one last question for the regions.
Perfect. I'll be very, very quick. And I think it speaks a little bit to what Lucian was saying as well. One of the myths, I think, about engagement, and we perhaps like to bust a little bit, is that like you can't do everything. Like different engagement tools and different practices will do some things and will get you so far, but engagement overall, there's always limited resources. There's always some normative challenge about engaging people. So that's like a reality I think we have to confront very, very quickly, and it becomes even more important to very clearly define what you want to get out of this engagement activity. And have that as the priority, and then if they have like other, as Eulalia was saying earlier, maybe the co-benefits from that or the secondary goals, and make sure that they are fulfilled, but be clear about them. And then even when you do fail, even when you do fail on other things, at least it's like it makes it much clearer, like what you did, what happened, why that happened, and how you succeeded, or what you didn't do, and then moving on from that. So yeah, I think this idea of very clearly articulating the goal of any engagement process as narrowly as we can, and then have like a must-have and then would like to have side of things would help a little bit of advance. And then yes, we definitely still have the issue of failing forward or failing well and sharing those experiences. But sorry, I will stop.
Thank you for that. Natasha, you had another comment on this? Or is it, yeah, go ahead.
I have two things, if I may, because what Lucian said really resonated with our situation. And I think it's the basic question is, what is good enough in what we're doing? And I think that the P2R project gives this freedom to all of us participating, that we go in depth as much as we're able to, on one hand, and the cyclical approach to it always enables us to go back and redo or improve the steps. So this for me is great about it, that it's not linear. Now, another thing which I think is very, very important, and we did touch it in the live meeting we had in Malaga, and that was where we stand as a region. Because if you're at the beginning of the process and you're just starting to make a strategy or even an action plan, you have to address holistically all the areas, and it is impossible to do it in detail. So it is only after you have this base that you can choose an aspect where you go deep inside, but you need to have the bases covered. So in my case, in Slovenia, we are now covering the bases, but we are maybe a little step further because we had a strategy that we are now, going towards the action plan. If you don't have strategic background, if you don't have real national policies in place that give you guidance on what you do at the regional and local level, so if you're really starting from scratch, you have to take a look at the whole thing, and it's inevitable that you cannot go in detail. So this is the main difference between various regions that participate in this project, and I really think we should take this into account when we look at, even to what level of engagement or what outcomes we will give. This is just one comment, and the other one is I posted this paper posted on innovative approaches. We saw that we're a bit weak on vulnerable groups, and we thought, okay, which group we want to engage more, and we chose youth because it's their future too. So we're going to make a
half-a-day workshop with them where we will actually make a simulation process of a decision-making process at the regional level. Through this, they will learn about the topic and different responsibilities in the region. And based on this, we will co-create or update our vision that will include the perspective of the youth. So this is, we have a base and then we can focus on specific group where we have specific meetings with them. This was not possible when we started, but now we're on the point where we can, do such a kind of participatory exercise with a specific group of stakeholders. Thank you.
That sounds similar. We heard from the West region that they were doing engagement with children. And you're working with trying to work with youth. I wanted to see if anybody else has any other elements from the what you heard from other regions today, or elements of the Pact 4.0 West. I dropped the question again in the chat. Is there anything else that you could imagine perhaps adapting to your own context to improve collaboration and governance and engagement in general? And if not, we can also move on to the kind of key takeaways. I invite you to go back to the Miro if you have access. And otherwise, I'll also make sure that some of you, if you don't, we can also do it in an auditory way. We have this prompt, which is, yes, if you have a key takeaway for strengthening collaboration in your region, what would that be? You could also take one of these two. We have emojis. One is a light bulb to represent something that you found particularly insightful from the discussion today, or a heart for something that resonated with you. If there's anything based on sticky notes that were added above, or something, you can also speak up if you'd like, and I'll take hands from the discussion today. Yeah, something that you felt was insightful or that resonated with you. And this could also be from the presentation itself.
Alina, I
Sorry,
think you are
I'm muted.
Yeah.
Sorry, thanks for that. Also from our experts, if you found something that you heard from the regions that was insightful, or that you think the discussion should kind of continue in that direction, that would be also fine to hear. Feel free if you also need a little bit of time to reflect. Again, the Miro is open. You can, or the chat, just to, if you have any other thoughts on the takeaways, yeah, we can give you some time to add those there. And in the meantime, I can also pass it on back to Paloma, because we have this, I think, something to close.
Yes, let me take over. So I'm going to drop a link in the chat, which is for the Innovation Practice Group's web page, where you can see, all the sessions and the registration links. I'm going to launch a poll that's supposed to be showing in your screen now. So popping up, you should see it. And I'm just going to leave you a couple of minutes to do that while I'm sharing screen, so that you can see what Alina was talking about. So let me see. Actually, I think I should share screen, but let's try with this. Because now you see the website, right? So this is the website where you can see all of the sessions. It's under events. So you have all of the sessions, and tomorrow we have the last two, one on the morning on local economic systems, and then knowledge and data in the afternoon. And if you click on the links here, you're going to get a summary of each of the sessions where you can see who is presenting, like which region is presenting and what is the topic of the discussion. And here, back to the mirror board, is what Alina was, I think, referring to, right? And I don't know if we put this link actually in the chat. I think we did before, but just in case, I'm just going to put that in the chat now. So you should have it, and we invite you to leave us any comments in here. And yes, and with that, I just wanted to thank everyone today for participating in this session, our experts, everyone from the regions, of course, Alina, Mariana, Angelique for moderating this session. I think we had some interesting discussions, some of the different experiences that you're facing, also a lot from the experts today participating in the session. But yeah, very interesting to listen, to your different perspectives and insights on this. And please come back to the Miro at any time. Leave us any feedback that you want. You can give us maybe any ideas on future topics that you would like to explore. You also have at the bottom here, as always, a space to share any resources. We'll try to put anything from the chat from today in here. And this is where you'll find the recording and the materials that were used today by the speakers. So you will find everything here. I'm just going to leave it back here. And we will also be following via email after this IPG session for you to have everything, more at hand. But stay tuned, register for the last two sessions that we have coming up tomorrow. And I hope that you have a wonderful day today. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks also from our side.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Have a nice day.